Welcome to People. I'm Shirley Lin. I'm here with Richard Chang, who is the country manager of Costco Taiwan in Neihu. And he has been the country manager for 18 years, ever since the time when he just arrived in Taiwan. And he was the first person to start the company here. And then now it's close to 3,600 employees island-wide. Well, let's meet Richard. Hi, Richard.
Shirley, it's good to see you again.
Yes, good to see you again.
Can't believe it's been
2 years.
2 years since our last
I know.
encounter, so it's
That's
good to be back. We have 3,600 employees on the island here. Since our last interview, we've opened up a depot, which is a distribution center, and so now the products go there first before they come to the warehouses.
Oh. Yeah. So things are done a little differently from
it's really improved our logistics. And to improve our logistics, that means we can lower the price of our merchandise.
Oh, really?
And pass that savings on to our members.
Oh, that's great.
And then I think we opened 2 more additional warehouses since we last visited.
Yeah.
So now we have all the major high-speed rail stations. We have a warehouse in all the cities now throughout the island, from Kaohsiung, Jiayi, Tainan, Taichung, Hsinchu, Taoyuan, and then in the greater Taipei area.
Wow, this I didn't know.
Yeah.
But for our audience, actually Costco Taiwan is probably the most successful warehouse store in all of Asia. Can I say that? The world? You want to say the world?
We probably rank up there relative to profitability, and I think that's really indicative of the spending and the purchasing power of the Taiwanese.
That's good, right?
Yeah, which is good. It's good for everybody.
Why do you think that's success? I think we did talk about this before, but
I think
why is that?
I think the Taiwanese, just like all people, the Taiwanese, they like value. If they can get good quality merchandise at the lowest possible price, they will embrace that.
All right.
And I think another issue we have, or an advantage we have, is we have a lot of imported products from the U.S. or from regional. And the Taiwanese love the imported products, whether it's Korean or Japanese food or American, U.S. brands. They love that. So I think that's one advantage we have when we compare that to our competition.
Wow, that is great. Now, I know that you started off as a basketball player before. People know you in Taiwan as Zhang Shihan, the basketball player. Now, actually, people are really admire the way you went from sports and you were up there in sports, and then how you kind of moved yourself into the business world. And that's been a very smooth and successful transition. I mean, how did you do it? And were there any fears, any worries that you had to overcome? I'm sure there were.
Sure, absolutely. That's a good question. Growing up in the States and playing basketball, it was clear to me that unlike for instance, Jeremy Lin, I knew that I could not make a living playing sports.
Well, how did you know?
I could just feel it. I could just feel that basketball was very good for me because I learned a lot of qualities of life through sports. I think we talked about last time, sports is really a microcosm of society in general. But I knew that there would be a limit in terms of how far sports could take me. So from the very early age, I knew that being a basketball player was not going to be my career, but more of an interest. So I did have some plans and I did have some goals that I set early, even as an athlete, which I think helped me transition over from being an athlete into life after athletics.
You thought of this yourself? I mean, how old were you then when you were so mature?
I think it was probably in high school and especially in college. I think one thing that helped me in that process was getting hurt. I got hurt my freshman year in college.
That was already how many years into basketball playing?
Oh, I've played basketball my life.
Okay.
So when I got hurt my freshman year in college, and it was a serious injury. I tore a ligament in my knee, and I had to sit out for about a year and a half.
That's a long time. And that got you thinking.
It got me thinking, saying, basketball and sports is such a kind of a quote-unquote an iffy type of situation that you have to rely on a lot of things and a lot of circumstances that you cannot control. And I said to myself at that time, boy, I better have a backup plan other than athletics. And I think that's what kind of brought me to where I am today. I had some clear goals that I set for myself. And I think that I meet a lot of young people today, whether they're athletes or non-athletes, and I don't see that in a lot of young people. And I wish that somehow that we can help them and say, listen, you have to have some goals. I always tell my coworkers or the employees at Costco, a bad goal is better than no goal.
Okay.
A bad goal is better than no goal, because if you have a bad goal, you may end up deviating into something that you're doing today because you were going this way. You wanted to be a world traveler and you went around the world, and all of a sudden, because you're in a different country, you found this job or you found a business that you pursued, and you wouldn't have found that if you didn't go on the world trip. So that was a goal. So what happens is, a bad goal is better than no goal. And I always preach that to the young people that I meet. What's your goal? And they said, well, I don't have a goal. Are you sure you don't have a goal? You should have a goal.
And they say, I just want to play basketball.
Well,
they say that's a goal.
That is a goal. That is a goal. But that's something that maybe...
It's not for everyone.
It's not for everybody, and it's very uncertain. There's a lot of uncertainty to that. And I tell the basketball players here, whether they're playing in the SBL, which is the Taiwan Pro League here, and I said, playing sports is great, but you have to have a goal of what you're going to do after you're done playing, because that day will come. Believe it or not, that day will come. That is inevitable.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do after that? And they say, well, I haven't thought about that. And I'll say, now it's time to think. And then when it's time for you to transition into life after athletics, you'll be prepared and you won't be scared. Because a lot of the players nowadays are athletes, is that they're uncertain of what they want to do. So then they keep on playing and they're delaying that inevitable day of when they were going to retire. And hopefully when you have a goal, you'll retire and you transition on your own terms. Not because, let's say, the ball club releases you, or that you get hurt, or something happens and you're not ready for that. That would be very unfortunate.
Well, can part of the reason be that the country or the government isn't doing much to really help promote the sports in the country? I mean, after all, basketball teams, we used to have, I don't know how many, but we're now down to 3 or 4. And baseball team, 3 or 4.
Yeah. I think government it's hard to control that. I think it's hard to promote that as well, because when you get into professional sports, it really is a market-driven condition. If everybody wanted to buy tickets and if everybody wanted to watch sports or a particular sport, then you would see more teams. You would see more private enterprise wanting to invest in owning teams. It's just the opposite. Yeah, it's a market force. Why is the NBA such a global brand now? They've done a good job in marketing the brand, so that everybody is supply and demand. There's not enough supply for the demand, so they can charge a lot of money, and everybody wants the NBA and the brand.
Well, that's what I meant. Maybe because we're lacking in the marketing part?
A little bit of that, but I just think it's a smaller market here in Taiwan.
Well, we're a smaller country.
We're a smaller country. That's right. And I think government can play a bigger role in trying to number one, promote the sports, but I think more importantly is promote the athletes who are playing the sports.
Yeah.
And I think that what happens now is this, in my observation is a lot of people don't want to go that route because of what we said. Maybe the transition is not as smooth. They probably don't get as much assistance from the government as they should. Right.
Well, maybe because the government wants to project a certain kind of image of Taiwan to the world, not so much in the sports, maybe.
Maybe. But I think it's also the athlete themselves.
Really?
They make it. Yeah, you can make the best out of it. You can get in athletics and learn a lot from that and transition over if you have the right mentality, if you have the right goals that you're setting. And I think it's really back to the individual.
Maybe you were more mature than most kids at your age at the time, in high school that is, because my son, he just loves play basketball, and he just wants to play basketball, and he thinks he's good at it. But you think that at his age right now, which is 15, 16, I don't think he really knows. I mean, he would think about what he's going to do in the future. He doesn't think that much ahead, not like you, I mean, how would you help kids at that age to think ahead of themselves?
Well, let's go back to your original question. Your son at 15 loves to play sports, loves
Yeah.
basketball, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think from sports, he's going to learn a lot of things that maybe a non-athlete would not be exposed to. Number one is, if he wants to get good at it, which I know that he does, there's a lot of discipline and a lot of hard work associated with that. Okay, so there's dedication, there's discipline. Playing a team sport like basketball, he's going to be exposed to teamwork.
Yep.
Okay, so these are all the qualities that he's exposed to from a very young age. Now, fast forward to that, let's say 10 years when he's 25 and he's in the workforce. We're talking about discipline. Mm-hmm. You know, discipline in the workforce is the same as on sports or in sports. He's going to have to deal with fellow employees. He's going to be doing projects. That's teamwork. Mm-hmm. So you can see how there's parallels between being an athlete playing basketball and being a worker or an employee of a company. There's a lot of parallels and the qualities. So we talked about that last time, is that I like to use athletes at Costco here.
Yeah.
And the reason why is I see those qualities in these people who have been involved in sports. In Chinese, 很耐用. They're good workers because they have discipline. It's hard to get up early in the morning to go practice.
Right.
Okay, but they do it.
Yeah.
It's hard to get up early to go to work, but they do it. You see the parallel there?
Yeah.
They work hard. Hey, sometimes you have to work with people. You may not like them, but you have to work with them in order to get the job done. Same with sports. You have teammates. You may not like them, but they're your teammates. And if you want to win, you have to play as a team. So there's a lot of parallels there. So I think, to answer your question, I think it's good to let them play sports. And to learn all the positive qualities of sports. And then from there, maybe you could say, well, look what you've learned in sports. And you can use that at school when you're dealing with your fellow students on a project. Or when there's discipline, you have to get your homework done. Think about that as practice. You've got to do that.
See, that's the thing. So the message we should get out to the parents is that it's okay for your kids to play sports, right? I think Taiwanese parents always tend to focus on grades, but it's okay for kids to play sports. But then on the other hand, like my son, he's not so good in school, but I think he's a smart kid, but he just loves to play basketball. And he's going like, why can't I spend more time in basketball? Well, the thing is that, unfortunately, and I don't know if it's God's will or whatever, that he got into high school. He just started his freshman year, but there's no basketball team in that school. So he's kind of disappointed. But the thing is, I'm telling him, you're a student now, okay? That's your status. And I think you should do your best in school because you are a student now. But I don't know. I mean, it's not that I want to take away basketball from him. I don't know how to tell him where the balance is, because I don't know, he just gets really feisty about not being able to spend more time in basketball when I'm and also the school is far from home, so he takes about probably 3-hour commute each way per day. And so then I'm telling him you need to go to bed early and that kind of stuff, but it's a frustration. I don't know. I love my son, but I don't know how I should say.
My advice to you is to let him enjoy basketball.
Yeah.
As much as he can, and also of course, school is very important. And maybe there's an equilibrium between the two, a balance between the two, where maybe some of his studying can involve studying basketball, studying the mechanics behind sports, studying the business of sports. Maybe that's his calling. I told my son, who's 18 years old, he's applying for college this year. I said, you don't have to. If you like basketball, that's great. But you know what? And basketball can be a career for you, not as a player, but maybe as a manager, maybe as a sports agent, maybe working for some of the brands. If you like sports, if you like basketball, what about working for Nike or Adidas? There's a lot of things. I love my job because I love the people I deal with. I wake up and I want to go to work and I want to get get my job done, that type of thing. I said to my son, I said, listen, if you got up every morning and you were going to the stadium, not because you're going to practice, but you're going to be working for the Lakers as in the back office, if you're working for them for marketing or finance, or hey, that's great because you're still close to what you love, but you have a career on it. Now, if I say to your son, keep on playing basketball because you're going to be a player, I would be giving him bad advice. But if you love sports, maybe one day you can work for a pro team. You can work for a brand name. You can work for an organization that is dealing with athletes and dealing with sports. There is a whole world behind the scenes of professional sports, of professional basketball, of the NBA. There's a company. The NBA is a company. And inside there's the commissioner, David Stern, and all the people that work to make this brand. Maybe that's the way to get him to have still not drop basketball 100%, but get him excited about, hey, the workings behind basketball, the workings behind sports. And that could be the goal, moving him forward to concentrating on schoolwork, because that is the means to an end. You still have to get good grades, so one day you can work for the Lakers or for the Bulls or for the Knicks.
Yeah.
That type of thing. So I think, for you to say, stop playing basketball, that's tough.
Yeah.
But to maybe kind of say, listen, basketball is good, but hey, part of this is also, a goal for him to work towards something.
Yep.
And that might be a way to inspire him. And I think the more he plays, I think, there's a lot of leadership qualities that come out from playing in sports.
Yeah.
You got to be a leader out there on the team, be a team captain. It's the same when you work in the workforce. You got to be a leader. A lot of employers look for people who have potential leadership qualities.
Yeah. Oh, I think my son has that for sure.
Yeah. So I think right now he's going through a phase, but you can maybe inspire him and say, there's a whole other side to sports, to basketball, other than just playing basketball.
Yeah.
From a business sense, and get him going that way.
Yeah. While we're on the subject here, I think young people tends to be very narrow-minded in their way of thinking. How do you help young people, how to start thinking earlier, or not to be so stubborn in the way of thinking? I mean, it has to do with just how they are as a person, but also about setting goals, like you were saying, or thinking ahead, that kind of stuff. So, what kind of advice do you usually give young people?
I think young people need to be exposed to a lot of different people and situations and environments. I think that the more they can get out of the country and travel, the better off they are, because they're exposed to other cultures. We try to travel at least once a year.
You mean company trip?
No, I'm talking about my children.
Your family, okay.
Yeah. And I like to take them, we take 2 trips a year, one in the summer to go back to the States, because that's where I grew up, and their grandparents are still there.
Okay.
And the other one is regional, whether it's here in Asia or maybe somewhere else, to get them exposed to how other people live, other lifestyles, to widen their horizon, if you will. And I think that's important, number one. Number two is that I'm an advocate of work experience.
Okay.
At a very young age, to get them out there in the workforce, get them out there in the quote-unquote the real world, and let them see what the real world is all about. I think there's a conflict, cultural conflict with that sense, because a lot of the parents here
in Taiwan,
a lot of the parents say, well, school is everything, school is everything, school is everything, and anything that takes away from that is a distraction. Working is one, sports is another one. So everything's dominated by reading and studying, which is great, which is okay. But we talked about there has to be a balance. And we talked about that last time, is when I interview people and I look at their resume, and I don't even look at their grade point average. It doesn't even resonate to me, because I know that's not important for what I'm looking for. I'm looking for an employee who has potential, who has work experience, who's mature, who can help me and help my company. And that's not necessarily a grade point average or a number on a piece of paper. So going back to what I'm saying is, they should get a lot of work experience and meet a lot of people. That will widen their horizon. And that might inspire them to say, hey, I met this guy, you know what, and he's doing this thing, and that really interests me.
Yeah.
And you never would have had that interest if you didn't meet that person, either on a trip or working or doing whatever. And I think that's important.
You're right. What are your sons like? Talk about that.
I'm saying all this, my sons, I'm trying to get them to do the same thing, get them out there and
I'm
meet
sure
more
they're
people.
on the
Yeah.
way.
You know, my
Yeah,
sons,
what are the
they're like
sons
your son. They like sports. They talk about sports all the time. You know, it's a different generation now. It's a very digital generation. So everybody's on their mobile device or they're watching YouTube. So that's a little bit different for me to handle. I was just telling a friend of mine, I was telling the coach, a player, I'm the coach, and I was telling the player, I said, yeah, why don't you call the kids up and tell them we got practice on Sunday. He says, okay. So come Sunday, I said, what happened? How come nobody showed up or half the players showed up? Well, he said, I posted it. I go, huh? In our days, we call.
Okay.
So if I call 5 people and 4 people say they're going to make it and one person says no, you know 4 people are going to make it and so is not going to make it because he has, he's an appointment. Nowadays, they say, oh, I posted it. So after you post it, he doesn't know who saw it, who didn't see it. So it was a surprise to him. So there's the kind of a generation gap.
Oh no, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that is a problem.
It is a problem, but my kids are like any other kids. They love sports, and they go to a school that's very demanding, very competitive. So they have a lot of homework to do. But
Are your sons very similar in personality? I'm sure they're very different.
They're very different.
What's your older son like?
My older son is probably a little bit more outgoing than my younger son.
Really?
Yeah, my younger son is, he plays basketball. He plays on the basketball team at school.
Well, they both play basketball, right?
Well, they both like to play basketball. One actually plays. The other one, my older son, doesn't play competitively.
That's
he
interesting.
just likes to go out and shoot and play street ball.
But your younger son, you say he's more quiet.
Yeah, my younger son is, it's kind of interesting. My younger son is very similar to me when I was growing up. I could see a lot of similarities. I play a lot of sports, but still very shy underneath that. And I could see that in him as well. Oh. So I try to get him out of his shell. And I think basketball helps him. Basketball definitely helps, and that's why I encourage him to play basketball.
Okay.
But again, I think that he also has he's well grounded relative to school. He knows that school is the most important.
So he's the balanced kind of kid.
He's a balanced kind of kid.
He's good at school and he's good at sports. I like this kind of kids.
I think I think that I've really encouraged him to play sports, but also that sports is not going to be the means to your end in the future. You can learn a lot from sports, and I said, I've learned a lot from sports. I've learned a lot from sports, but I know that one day that I'm going to have to transition, and he knows that.
He understands.
Yeah, and he's played competitive. Last summer, he played in a Las Vegas tournament.
Really?
Yeah, and that was an all-star of all the all-star teams. We call them AAU teams in the U.S. And he saw the players and he said, "Wow, these guys are good."
See, this is where you brought your son and open their eyes. That's why you say travel more, see more,
and that will give you an idea. Sometimes you don't even have to tell them. Sometimes they look. I know my son walked in and he looked and he says, "Wow, these guys are all my age. They're all bigger than me. They all jump higher than me." It kind of gave him a kind of a awakening, if you will, a reality check.
But he wasn't intimidated.
He probably wasn't intimidated until he started to play.
Okay.
But I think he said, "You know what? Maybe I need to have a backup."
Yeah.
So.
That's the thing. My son, he thinks he's so good at basketball. I don't often see him play, but in the back of my mind, I would think like, if only I would find someone who plays even better than him.
There's a lot.
Then he would be humbled.
You should invite him to come and play with us, and then he will see some real good basketball players. Really basketball players are real skilled.
Yeah.
And he'll say, and I'll guarantee you, he'll say, "You know what?
Have second thoughts.
I like basketball, but basketball may not be my future." And I think it's just another way of not telling him, but just showing him.
Yeah.
And let
it's
him,
okay, right? That I think that way.
I think your thinking is right. Your thinking is right. And me being a former athlete, I can say that your thinking is absolutely right.
Really?
Yeah, but it's hard. He's at that stage right now where he has a passion for the game.
Yeah.
And that's great. You got to have passion for something. Mm-hmm. But if you can turn that passion to something that will help you in the future, that's even better.
Wow.
That's even better. So I look forward to meeting your son one of these days.
Now I got talking about him so much.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you're a good daddy.
I try. I try to lead by example. I think it's I get up before my kids get up, and they get up early. I get up even earlier because it's my habit, and they see
Wow.
me go to work in the morning.
Why do you get up that early? You exercise before you come into work?
I do exercise
You do?
before I go to work.
What do you do? Jog?
I like to swim. So
That's
after I
good
got hurt,
sport.
the doctor says, listen, you should swim. And swimming could be a lifetime activity. Jogging and any of that high intensity or compact.
I agree.
The knees and the joints. So swimming is nice. I think also swimming is very soothing.
Yeah.
When you're in the water, if you talk to people who swim, there's this feeling of tranquility when you're in the water. It's deafening. When you're in the water, you hear nothing.
Right.
Which is very, very
And that's a good time to
comfortable.
think.
It's a good time to think.
Right?
I do a lot of thinking in the water.
I know.
I have I call it a partner, and
Yeah.
we keep each other honest. So in the mornings, he'll give me a text. It says,
What?
A partner, a swimming partner.
Oh.
Because we'll keep each other honest by, we won't be able to cheat. Say, I don't want to go today. Because if he goes,
I get
then
it.
you go. You say, he's going to go, then I
You
got to go.
live close to each other
We don't live too close to each other, but we meet at the pool.
at the same pool.
Yeah, so he'll say 6:30. Okay, be there 6:30.
He works here?
He doesn't work here, no,
Ah.
no. But it's good to have a partner. You
That
keep each
is.
other honest,
Yeah.
so you won't toe line.
Right.
So-
Well, does it sound like I swim? I don't. But my husband swims.
Good.
Yeah, and I'm just saying that he says swimming is like breathing, just like normal breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, what are you talking about? But he is so smooth in the water. He's just like a big whale to me. It's kind of moving slowly because he's big.
Yeah.
But yes,
I
like
think,
zero impact, and it's a great kind of sport. I know
good
it's a
sport.
very safe, the best kind of sport.
a lot of people
whole body wise.
Yeah, a lot of people get discouraged in the beginning because it's
Yeah,
tiring.
because I'm afraid of the water.
But once you learn, it's like anything. Once you get good at it, it becomes very addictive, and it's a good addiction. The swimming.
So you learned swimming after basketball?
Well, I swam. I grew up in near the coast, so I was always by the beach. So I was always a pretty decent swimmer, but not a swimmer like I am now, whereby I'm swimming a lot.
All right.
So, because I was swimming was boring. Swimming was boring. I would much rather be body surfing at the beach. But
you
now,
surf too?
I used to surf when I was I grew up like 3 miles from the beach.
Tell me, a tall person like you're what, 190?
198.
Yeah, I knew I was getting it wrong. It's 198 centimeters. Okay. Is it is it good for someone that tall to surf? Actually, you know what I mean? The height, kind of a handful.
No, there's probably if you say, well, technically you're probably a little bit too high because your center of gravity is higher.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think there's a big issue with that.
Okay.
I don't think there's an advantage or disadvantage.
Would you say you're a good surfer?
No. As a matter of fact, I did a team building function, an event earlier this year, and I took all my directors to the coast here in Taipei, in Taiwan, up at the coast, and we surfed.
They all knew how to surf.
They didn't. Nobody
right?
knew how to surf.
So
I had teachers, I had coaches, and
Yeah.
everybody had a surfboard, and we had like 3 or 4 coaches, and everybody stood up. Everybody got up on a wave, and everybody got up several times, and they just enjoyed it because it was the team building was something that you never ever did, you never ever you think you would ever do, and to be able to do it and to enjoy it. And we had a great afternoon at the beach, and we went there in a bus, and we had refreshments, and everybody surfed, and then we came back, and it was quite enjoyable, quite memorable.
that's a very American way to do for American bosses, is to take their directors or employees even and just go do team building kind of activities. Do you think Taiwan is catching more onto
Absolutely.
this thing?
Absolutely.
It's so important, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It goes back to team building, teamwork. To answer your question, here in Taiwan, there are a lot of places now. A lot of them do cooking and team building.
Cooking?
Yeah.
Cooking?
Yeah, they have cooking studios, kitchen,
Yeah.
and you bring in your employees and you cook together, and that's a way of
Really?
building teamwork. There's one now that's called Escape Artist.
Yeah, I know that.
You paint.
Yep.
And you paint that. So there's a lot of these. A lot of them. Chinese is more towards eating and drinking.
I was just going to say.
Which is, that's their culture. But even within that framework, you can also achieve the team building philosophy, the spirit. People are
is
cooking,
great.
and after you cook, you eat and have fun. A lot of us wine tasting. So to answer your question, yes, it's going to be becoming much more common now, because we're becoming more global. Even here in Taiwan, we're much more global, much more international, and the management style is becoming much more consistent with what they're doing overseas. So yes.
Well, that is great, because it's funny. Taiwanese people are so into work, and the outcome more so than the process getting there. So I'm sure you're doing great as the big boss of Costco Taiwan. What is the mentality you give to employees? One last thing.
I think the most thing I want to share with my employees is, work hard, but the quality of your life is very important.
Oh.
And I don't think that when people work, that's all they do is work, and they don't have a very happy lifestyle or a very quote-unquote happy life, I don't think that's very productive. I think the happier you are at home and the healthier you are, the more productive you'll be as an employee. If you come to work and you're unhealthy or you're sick and you're unhappy, that rubs off on your employees. That rubs off on your coworkers.
Do they get that?
They get that. I hope they get that. I said, listen, when you're done with your work, go home. Don't stay here because you want to clock in 10 hours.
Yeah,
when you're done, go home.
Yeah, in Taiwan there's the overtime culture here. So.
Well, it's not very productive.
I know.
We really focus on productivity, on efficiency. And to be productive, be efficient, I think you got to be a happy person. And if the happier you are, the happier, the better work you do.
Here's a happy Richard.
I try to be happy.
This is really great. Well, I learned a lot more from you again,
well,
Richard. Thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you for coming.
All right. So have a happy day today.
I will.
I know I will too.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much for watching, people. I'm Shirley Lin.